Live on Facebook and Zoom. Sorry, we have to start late. We have some difficulties. So, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of CoinNewsExtra panel discussion. It's a program where we invite stakeholders in the blockchain and cryptocurrency space to talk about interesting and matters arising in the ecosystem. So today is the episode 24 of our panel discussion. I will be talking about interpretation of the Nigerian state regulation of cryptocurrency in Nigeria. So we've seen things that are happening in the ecosystem. There are being regulatory uncertainty. So Nigerian state have come out with this. So we have stakeholders in the Nigerian blockchain and cryptocurrency ecosystem. We have Chuta Chimeze, who is founder Blockchain Nigeria User Group and CEO Blockspace Africa. Thank you, Mr. Chuta, for joining us.
Thank you so much, CoinNewsExtra. It's always a pleasure to be in your programs. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you. Another person, another personality that is joining us today is Paul Ezeafolokwe. He is the president of Stakeholders in Blockchain Association of Nigeria. Paul, you are welcome to CoinNewsExtra.
Thank you so much, Ali, for CoinNewsExtra. It's wonderful.
It's a pleasure to have you. So, unless that is joining us to talk about this topic is Atebiji Owonebe. He is Senior Partner Financial Forensic and Virtual Asset Regulatory Advisor. Atebiji, you are welcome to
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you. So, next is Lucky Owakwe. He's the founder Sabi Group. Lucky, you are welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much, and good to have to meet everybody today.
It's a pleasure to have you. You're welcome. So we'll be talking about a very pressing topic that the Nigerian SEC came out to regulate cryptocurrency. First of all, looking at what's happening in the crypto and blockchain space, is this the right time to regulate cryptocurrencies in Nigeria, most especially? Mr. Chuta, let me start with you.
Okay, thank you, CoinNewsExtra, for your question. Whether it's the right time to regulate crypto assets in Nigeria or not. Well, what I have to say here is that policies, regulations, and standardizations are part of the foundations for mass adoption, which practically everyone is desiring to see in the ecosystem. A lot of people who currently play in the crypto asset space are risk takers. They are people who are more subjective to have things remain the way Satoshi Nakamoto designed it, P2P, trustless, and have nothing to do with government and all that. That's good, but if you go by that standard, then not many people are going to come into the ecosystem, because the people who play in that type of environment are in the minority. They're not in the majority at all. So if you're striving to get more people into the crypto assets ecosystem, to utilize blockchain technology for any utility purpose for which it was designed for, then you must understand that policy making and regulations are key integral parts that can help to drive mass adoption. This is the only thing that can bring in people who live and operate in organized environments, institutions, and establishments that go according to governance purposes and designs. They need to have these things properly put in place before you can expect them to function in that environment. And for the past 3-4 years, this ecosystem has been functioning without regulation, without any kind of policy, without any kind of standardization. And we have seen how it operated. We have seen characters, we've seen products, we've seen all kinds of manifestations of people who have intentions that are not so clear. So I think personally that for us to move forward from where we are right now, regulation at this point is necessary and it's required. And it's one of those things that we need to continue the journey moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Adedeji, what's your take on that? Do you think it's the right time to regulate cryptocurrency in Nigeria?
There's no straight answer to that. There's no time that is too early, and there's no time for me that I think is too late, because we are at the right beginning of this whole ecosystem. It's just like barely 10 years or thereabout. So whether it is the right time to regulate it or not, I think I will want to align with Twitter to say it is absolutely necessary to jump in to do something. A lot of people that are organized businesses, will only operate in an organized environment. So if you're an asset manager, the like of Grayscale, all those companies, they wouldn't operate and be buying Bitcoin and also diversify their investments if there's no ground rule for them to play with, because it means that we'll be operating in an environment of confusion. So bringing some clarity or trying to show intention to actually regulate it, gives us a head within Africa as a role model to look up to. So for me, the answer straight to answer your question, I would say yes, it is a move in the right direction. A lot of people want to hijack the space, knowing very well too that if it is open and no regulation, no benchmark of who comes in and go out, it's just the same like your house, you leave it open, anybody can just come in. And when you put a lock and you give permission to people that can actually come to your house, that actually secures the property you have in there. And also anybody you find within your household probably must have gotten your permission to actually be there. And so in that case, you can account to what happens around the whole ecosystem. But what we're seeing now, if it's left, of course, you can trust our Nigerians to take advantage, albeit in the opposite if there's nobody to hold anyone to account. So I would say it's great and it's a good start.
Thank you very much. Mr. Paul, you've seen Nigeria taking the lead, and there have not been nations in Africa who have come clear with regulating cryptocurrency. So is it the right time to regulate cryptocurrency in Nigeria? Hello, sir, can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay, is it the right time?
Okay, there is particularly no wrong time to come in to regulate, but one thing is clear is that we've seen a lot in this space. We've seen abuses here and there. We've seen so much happening. We've seen scams. We've seen people make away with monies that they've been entrusted with. We've seen security tokens being touted as utility tokens. We've seen all kinds. So there is no particular. It's a move in the right direction, but it's just for me. I think the being the right time, yes, but at the same time they should just factor in what can they regulate particularly, because there are some things they cannot regulate. There are some things they can regulate, and going forward, we'll just have to keep interfacing everybody, keep interfacing with them to see how to move from where we are. So it's the right time and it's a step in the right direction.
Interesting. Lucky, what's your take on that?
Okay, my take is quite my take is very simple. Yes, it's a good one for them to come in and regulate, but they can only regulate the things that are regulatable, if I'll use that word, because quite a lot of things at this point in time are no longer within the reach of regulations as at this time. So the things to be regulated are just very, very, very few right now, and maybe we can start with that areas for now, and that's the best I think they can do.
Okay, thank you very much. That leads us to the next question. So we are looking at, let me read what a part of the SEC release, their statement. They said subsequently, the SEC will regulate token or crypto coin investment when the character of the investment qualifies as securities transaction. What's your interpretation about that statement? I think DG, let me start with you.
Thank you very much. Like we do know, within the blockchain ecosystem, within the crypto asset itself, there are different classifications to what the crypto assets can actually do. You can model it to what you want. It is not actually very new. It just depends on the technology that is backing it. We know we have vouchers. As early as yesterday, I got a voucher when I went to shop. And those are the things that actually happen to motivate you to actually come back to shop again. And so I will not take my Walmart voucher or the shops I went to buy things and lay claim on Walmart's ownership or Walmart's profit or whichever shop or ShopRite's profit, permit me because I'm out. So things like that, you know, you have to now know exactly what kind of activity, you know, that crypto asset or token or whatever is playing. So when it plays, the function of, okay, the Walmart gave you something and they said, okay, with this, give me some few dollars, and or ShopRite says, or give me some few naira, and as I sell and make profit, you're gonna own some part of ShopRite. That have moved from the normal voucher that I was given when I purchased something in that store to something like an ownership or a stake in that business. So with those clarity, that is what I think the SEC is talking about, that if you do offer any token, they are not saying do not give your voucher, do not give promotional cards, but when you do give and solicit money or any kind of investment from someone, to tell him, oh, you are going to benefit, either in cash, either in ownership, whatever it is, that has moved it from the normal voucher that it should be to now a security which is under the purview of the Security and Exchange Commission to regulate. So in that sense, that is what they're trying to clarify. That is why they're trying to put that demarcation. That whatever thing you do, you should. Because for me, I look at it in a three-pronged. That, okay, we are giving you an intention that we want to regulate the space because of the activities that we see happening. But when we do, we don't want to bore ourselves with what is not or what is not, all those arguments back and forth. Just come tell us that what you're offering is not actually an investment. It's not giving anybody a hope that you are giving him anything in return. And we can check that and know that, okay, in that sense, you're free to just go on. Else, if you don't pass that particular stage, you need to come and register so that you can fully come under the preview of what is obtainable. Like I do tell people, you don't regulate, you know, the technology. It doesn't change anything if you say I use blockchain for ABC, but that blockchain technology that you use, does it perform any of the standard operations business-wise within the space? I mean, within current Nigerian state that is being regulated. You know, if you're using your platform to exchange money, everybody knows that central bank will be of interest. If you're using that to solicit for investment from people, when you're not going to Nigerian stock market to do that, of course, everyone knows that the SEC will want to look at it. I think that is what mainly they are trying to expatiate to make sure that that demarcation and that clarity is brought to the whole discourse.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Paul, what's your take? What's the interpretation about that statement?
Okay. The statement of SEC, like DG has said, come again, what was the statement? Which particular statement?
Subsequently, the SEC will regulate crypto token or crypto coin investment when the character of the investment qualifies as securities transactions.
Okay. So we've had cases where some tokens were classified as security tokens, or rather, even the people offering them. Whenever you offer somebody any offering with a claim that the person will get so amount, it's more like you're selling shares to the person. That falls under the purview of SEC. But some people who don't understand or who want to abuse the system will call it a utility token. A utility token is very different from a security token. So that kind of offering definitely will fall under their purview. And the truth is, like SEC and their spokesman had said, that you have to come and explain to them. For me, I think that is a bit ambiguous because for me, I think they should just come up with a policy statement and a description, a description of what is to them a security token and what is a utility token. Not the statement is like I said, is ambiguous. That you should come and explain to them. When you have right now, I think in the Nigerian ecosystem, I've seen more than 200 offerings. Both ones we know, but some of them are even outside the country, Nigerians who are playing in the space. So, but they keep selling to Nigerians there. For every jurisdiction, whether you are outside the jurisdiction or you are in the jurisdiction, once your offering is being offered to people, to citizens of that particular jurisdiction, it falls under the purview of the regulatory agency of that jurisdiction to look into. So I think basically, for me, I don't particularly like that particular option of you come and explain to them. They should just come out with a policy statement on that. We've had meetings with them, and I know other groups here have had meetings with them on what they feel, and so they should just come out with a policy statement. And if it's not okay, we can go back and say, no, this is not right, this is not okay, or we need a review of this. But that statement is ambiguous. Not just is it ambiguous. There's basically, we all know what a security token is. We all know what a utility token is. So it's quite different. So that's my take on that.
Interesting. What's your take? Hello, sir. Mr. Chuta.
Okay. Thank you, CoinNewsExtra. Now, the first part of this is for us to, first of all, note the fact that the Investment and Security Act of 2017 that established SEC Nigeria put the responsibility of regulating the capital market squarely on their shoulder. And in order to do that, they make rules and they make regulations, especially in types of issuance of securities or asset class that they are very familiar with. But when it comes to crypto assets, tokens and all the kinds of offerings that we have in blockchain technology, you find that there are so much complications and there are very thin line that divides most of these offerings. I mean, as technical people who play in the industry, we know what an ICO is, we know what an AEO is, we know what, we know all these. As Paul said, he said, we know what securities are. But how many people out there that are going to fall victims know what securities are? Who knows what security tokens are outside the blockchain communities and crypto environment? No. But when people, they go out into the ignorant public and they lure them in pretense that what they issued is XYZ, whereas what actually they are issuing is actually something else. So when we sat down in the blockchain and virtual financial assets working group to look at these things, because we need to understand that SEC did not just wake up one morning to put out this stuff. Committee was formed, and we had very, very, very eminent and responsible industry participants as part of that committee. And we articulated every single aspect of this thing. So it was our opinion that instead of trying to define each of these assets as this one is commodity, this one is security, this one is just a gift card or whatever, let us make a blanket assumption that when people are doing capital raising that is not in the kind of crowdfunding model that people can easily use following crowdfunding rules to raise funds, but you are using tokens and you're telling people, I'm giving you this in exchange for this. Now we'll say, hold your brakes there, hold your brakes there. Come and tell us, what is it, what are you doing? What are you issuing? It's very important that that particular posture was taken by SEC, because that's a large net that can capture everyone. Then we'll begin to separate the wheat from the chaff. And that's the process that will work in this kind of environment. If you don't do that, then someone will come and tell you, we're not issuing tokens. Then you wouldn't know when he has already issued something that looks like token. And when people run into problem, they'll go back to SEC. And SEC is supposed to have an oversight function on what happens in the capital market. And that is really very important that they do it in the way they are doing. So I think that for those who are issuing it, it's tough for you to go and file and explain. But then that toughness is what is required to extract the truth about your intentions from the word go. So that if we extracted some kind of truth from you and you renege on it in the process, then we can hold you by what you had given up at the foundation of your issuance. So I think it's a very intelligent approach, and it will help us. It's already set to help us, and we just have to have the right approach that should work, so that we don't do back and forth every time we want to solve this problem.
Thank you very much. Lucky, what's your take? Did you get the question?
Yeah, I would have wanted to repeat the question again, but I think I get the entire thing. My take will be that the current position right now, the current information that is out there right now, is still even a little bit confusing for the average user, or still a little bit confusing for the community. For one simple fact, I would rather want a situation where they could give clarity on each of the categories, because we all know that it's either a security or utility or commodities. And if we have that clarity from the perspective of SEC, it's even left for the individual who might not be as sophisticated as SEC to easily see what he or she wants to buy, or to the individual who wants to issue out the token, they could know, okay, this thing I'm buying falls in this particular category, and therefore this requirement will be what is obtainable for this particular category of things. I think though they themselves coming out to give the statements and putting virtually everything in one basket, it's still a little bit not clear, but though a step in the right direction, but still not clear. So my own encouragement or my own take would be a much more better clarity. That way, even foreign users or foreign issuers or people who want to come play locally in the Nigerian market can easily know where they fall in, or how best they can go in terms of trying to tackle each particular category. That will be my take in terms of that particular question.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me get back to Mr. Paul. So the question I'm going to ask is, you are the president of the Stakeholders Association, TBAN, Stakeholders and Blockchain Association of Nigeria. So, he said, by this regulation, what companies fall under this regulation by SEC?
Oh, I didn't hear that part. You said what falls under this regulation per se?
Which company, which blockchain and cryptocurrency companies fall under the regulation of SEC?
You see, like I agree with it, to a certain level with what Chuta has said and what Lucky has said. But the only issue I have is the issue of having a blanket kind of policy, just to drag everything in. It's not going to work, and we will see that. For me, I don't see it working. This actually, if you look all through, if you look at the American SEC, Indian SEC, and Hong Kong, if you look at their policy statement, it's very different from what we are seeing here. There is nothing like a blanket. Everybody should come tell us you are doing this. No, it doesn't work that way. Like Lucky has said, what we are looking at is give us a policy for these guys. They have people there. They should know this industry is almost how many years now. They should have come up by now. They should look at what other countries have done, what Malta is doing, what India is doing, China is doing. Just look at it, see what is feasible here in Nigeria. Those are different jurisdictions. Now, coming back to which companies fall under, from what SEC has said, that's why I said it's too ambiguous. From what SEC has said, everybody falls under it. If you look at their statement from beginning to the end, even the people who are educating people, they fall under it. The exchanges fall under it. Then the traders, the OTC traders fall under it. Every other person, from what they have said, if you look at the statement very well, I might be wrong, but from what they have said,
that is not true, Paul. That is not true. You're not presenting the facts properly. It's not true that OTC traders and educators fall under regulation of SEC. Where did you see something like that? There's no such thing. Okay. The statement that people are misunderstanding is where they said that any individual or organization, and when they mean individual, they're not saying any person like Paul. They are talking about any individual entity, any individual organization that is doing it. It's not you, Lucky, Paul, Deji. If you're buying crypto, you're under regulation. That's a nonsense. There's not such thing anywhere.
Okay. Mr. Paul, continue.
Okay, before you come in there, I thank you for that correction. But I want to let you know something. After Lucky is here, he can help expand what I'm saying. When we had the meeting with Mr. Gama, we asked Mr. Gama, from your statement, which is looking ambiguous, it's not particular, it is not on point. Who falls under it? Mr. Gama told us that everybody buying. Lucky, am I right? Are you were there at that meeting? You can help me.
There's a point. There is a point in the. So if you go back to the SEC
document.
Website or the web page where they made that decision. There's a point clearly stated there in terms of all the category of person. They wrapped anybody, any participant, any player, any user, even as far as individual person who wants to purchase for personal item. I think I remember Senator Putin making a particular asking a particular question somewhere centered around what if I want to purchase crypto assets, even for my wife and something like that. So that's to tell you that the statement itself, even wrap an individual user who's probably not even technically into business, though they didn't wrap them on the grounds of maybe wanting to regulate them. They also want to know what they are doing with it and to what extent are there profit made and all of those things. It's there on their statement once you go to it.
So in all fairness to SEC and to the people who fashioned out the document, we need to narrow down. A policy like this cannot be a blanket statement. It has to be narrowed down. I've read documents from different jurisdictions. This is very different. This statement is very different from you can just see the Nigerian thing around it. It's not done that way. I've not come where you just give out a blanket, you take a net to a particular industry. It is who you catch or who comes to tell. It doesn't make sense. What should make sense here is there should be a clear-cut policy statement. This is what we want. This is what we are looking at. Then industry, people who are in the industry will now work towards it and see what we can do. Okay, am I infringing on this statement or this law? That is how it goes. But having a blanket statement cannot work, and you will see it, that it will not work. That's when you will now begin to see that at the end of the day, there will be a lot of friction between industry players and the agencies, because some people will not go because they don't understand. And even those that go, there might not be, you won't have, what we are going to begin to see is that you will not see the same kind of measure between Mr. A and B and Mr. A and Z. You will see, okay, Mr. A can, if Mr. A can get a lawyer or some group of people who can prove to SEC that he's not doing a security token. Meanwhile, somewhere there's an undertone of security token and he flies. Mr. Z will go, and because he's not able to talk well, because he's not able to explain himself well to SEC, and he does not pass. You begin to see that friction. So as far as I'm concerned, from what Mr. Agama has clearly explained, we even have it on record where somebody asks him that, you mean if I am in my house or a P2P platform, I'm buying crypto, I'm selling to my wife? He said yes. He told the person specifically that yes, that what you are buying is it not tradable? The person said yes. He said, your wife are you your wife? The person said no. He said yes, that falls under our purview. I didn't miss that. So,
okay, Mr. Paul, we'll get to that. We still have many questions to ask. So in case you are joining us and you have questions, you can drop it at the question and answer sessions. Let's take questions from our audience. So let me continue. Adeliji, what's your take on that? Which companies are going to be regulated under the SEC? You're mute, sir.
Thank you very much, CoinNewsExtra. The argument is very dicey, and for me, there's nothing very new in this whole thing. I've been engaged with a lot of things that has to do with this, and exactly this kind of statement is what the US SEC is fashioned towards. You get to come to explain to the US SEC that actually your security or whatever you're offering is not a security but a utility token. And if you do not, and you do offer it, or you even leave the shores of the United States, and anybody within the United States buys that, they will come after you, wherever country you go to come and refund the citizens of the United States those money you collected from them. But again, I'm very cautious in putting Nigeria at the same pedestal with the United States and those developed economies. But again, when we also look at the way we are overzealous in when we accept technologies, we tend, with due respect to a lot of our Nigerians, we tend to actually try to manipulate, and take advantage of that as a unique attribute that we do have. And I'm saying this out of the kind of eye that I have within the industry. As little as just very few times that we have been into the industry to try to see how we can detail investigations into things, it will amaze you the kind of things that we see happening within Nigeria. So, and it will be difficult for you to begin to put a dragnet and begin to explain every detail. I think the US SEC too believe that when you begin to explain every detail of the thing, because the industry is dynamic, even when you put ABC is the thing, then just tomorrow when you wake up, the list will have gone to C to Z. That is not captured on that. So that is why you just leave it for it to leave. For me, I will not take Mr. Agama's explanation.
Okay, Mr. Adeliji, which companies are going to be regulated by this SEC?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That when you not take Mr. Agama's whole discussion to mean verbatim what SEC's position is. If you go by Financial Action Task Force classification of who should be regulated in doing what, which they classify as virtual asset service providers, it doesn't really include individuals that actually buy or sell. And in this sense, when they say any entity, based on the definition, because of course the committee, I happen to be the member of this regulatory drafting committee, when it was gone, and it is headed by a senior advocate of Nigeria who understands all this. Those things were actually flogged and argued. It's not as if all the committee members actually faced the same direction in deciding that. So when they say any individual, it means individual entity. You know, the law sees a company that operates like a single body, a single human person that can sue and can be sued. You know, so those are the things that if you operate businesses within that, it has to be business. Today we buy shares. I'm not regulated. I buy shares from the stock market. I'm not regulated. You know, but the companies that are in charge of ruling all those things have to be obviously under the purview of SEC. So to answer summarily, are businesses, entities that issue or that trades with crypto assets and either buy on behalf of their customers and sell on behalf of their customers, and to put it straightly the way they put it, that have the order book you place on for your customers with it. It means somehow they were defining exchanges, they were defining, you know, things that has to do with that, and blockchain services or blockchain companies that are building stuffs that have in them embedded security token features. And that is what I think the SEC is talking about.
Thank you very much. Lucky, what's your take briefly? You're mute, Lucky.
Okay, thank you. I'll make it very brief. Just to put it again, this is not actually something, a case of between Mr. Gama or any other person. We're deliberating directly on the information that is publicly available from SEC. And the information right now that's publicly available and seems it's already we already have an understanding it's ambiguous, and that seems to put everybody under the loop, including players, participants, company, issuers, and also even inclusive those who even want to buy the entire asset or whatever thing that is being played out within the blockchain space as of today. My take is will be very straight to the point. I don't see this playing out looking at the current people that they have roped into the entire thing. I don't see it playing out at all in terms of even the mechanism to even catch or even hold these people accountable or responsible. That will it will not be feasible with all fairness. Maybe we might need further clarity even after this statement, or even after the statement have been made public as at now. This will be my take.
Thank you very much. I'm asking to know, CoinNewsExtra, they did mention specifically. I want to know if we are part of the regulation.
Yeah, as far as we're concerned, looking by that particular information, even media players, blockchain media players can, to an extent, be under the loop. Why? Because your platform could be a place where people can promote this particular purchase of this item itself, even though you might not be an issuer. But for the fact, just like as they would have regulate some media house in terms of what they can talk about. For example, I can't go to channels and tell people to come and buy a particular token that I'm issuing, and you expect channel to air it on their national television. The SEC can come for them if they use that place as a medium or a place where they could promote this particular content. So the same thing will apply to even CoinNewsExtra if it becomes a platform for where people either buy securities, utility, or commodities.
Thank you very much. Let me hear from Chuta. Mr. Chuta, what's your take? You're mute.
Okay, thank you, CoinNewsExtra. Now, I have opened before me the document that formed where SEC's publication came out from. Under the subheading that says who will be regulated, it says any person, then in parentheses, individual or corporate, whose activities involve any aspect of blockchain-related and digital asset services. Are you hearing the emphasis? Digital asset services must be registered by the Commission, and as such will be subject to regulatory guidelines. Now, if as an individual, you are just buying and selling cryptos as an individual, I'm buying from Paul, and Paul is paying me for my what I sold to him. I don't have to be regulated as an individual. And it's very clear in this paragraph here. But if I sit as a service provider providing sales of digital assets to people who are buying from everywhere in Nigeria or even across the world as an entity, a business entity, then I am running a service that is subject to regulatory compliance. Okay, so typically it's very easy to see who falls into this category. If you are an exchange, for instance, a custodial service provider, a broker, or you are running a P2P platform that offers this service, you are subject to regulation. And it's very clear, and it is possible to regulate you, in as much as if I sit in my house and I buy coins from Paul and pay him, how are you going to regulate what we are doing between ourselves? We are not entities, we're individuals. So regulation is purely targeted at the service providers and the way people who play in that industry as individuals or entity interact within themselves. It's just like you have a football match going on and you have a referee and you have a linesman. As long as you're in the field playing, then whatever the linesman or the referee says, you are subject to obey it. And that's exactly what they are trying to say here now. Now, I know that sometimes when statements are put out, they are subject to misinterpretation, and a lot of people will approach it from a sentimental point of view. But it's always better and good for you to go back and take up the document in its originality, because what we did here in this committee is over a 72-page document, but SEC put out just 2-pager to summarize what we were trying to do. So you need to get a copy of that document. I think it's on SEC website, and read through it properly, and you get the right picture of what it's supposed to be. Okay, like Mr. Deji said, you don't need to take what Mr. Agama said. Probably he said that if you are in your house and you sell crypto to your wife, then you are under regulation. Probably if you're a company and your wife is your buyer, then you should be regulated by that. But if you're an individual and you give your wife Bitcoin and your wife gives you money, there's no regulation for you, bro. There's no such thing. So it's very, very clear on what and who to be regulated. And of course, we should not lose sight of the purpose of regulation, which is that you have to have a level playing ground for everybody. Okay?
Thank you very much. In case you are just joining us, this is CoinNewsExtra Federal Weekly Blockchain and Cryptocurrency Panel Discussion, episode 24. So we are talking about interpretation of the Nigeria SEC regulation of cryptocurrency in Nigeria. So we have industry experts and personalities that are joining us to talk about it. And this program is broadly sponsored by MTech, Innovators Ecosystem, and Hotcoin. So we will be raising their hand. So let's see if we can hear and take some questions. Okay, let me check. Senator, can you hear? Senator Ihe?
Yes.
Are you with us? Okay, what's your question?
Okay, thank you very much. I just wanted to make a contribution to the debates, I would say. I understand, of course, the position that every speaker is coming from. I also recognize that Mr. Chuta Chimeze has been part of the committee that was set up long before now to look into regulation of cryptocurrencies and other digital assets in the country. So, yeah, his work in the space is quite appreciated. I wanted to just point out that the place where the confusion is emanating from is there's a phrase used in SEC statements under who will be regulated. There's a phrase that says dealers on own accounts. This was the question that I personally put to Mr. Agama to explain what it means to say dealers on own accounts would be regulated. Everyone who was in there that day knows that I even had to use different examples and you made an example of me and my wife, just to clarify the confusion, because Mr. Agama kept responding that, hey, it means individual wallet owners, and I found that very, very, strange. And I've never seen it anywhere in the world. And I was wondering how that works. So I had to ask, and I did ask again using an example of Mr. Ihenye and Mrs. Ihenye. And he reconfirmed that you and your wife will be regulated. So it was quite a shocker. And we just, a lot of the members in the community were not very happy about that. But I told them and assured them that there's a process in regulation. Regulation evolves. There's nothing like, it's not constant.
Okay. Your time is up. We take
So I would just like to say, just by way of suggestion, and this is what we can take up too with SEC, we should not assume that statement is perfect. We should not assume that at all. That statement is filled with a very vague and equivocal statement.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So we would need to keep interfacing with SEC to give more clarity. And please, this is what those in that committee should be telling SEC. There needs to be some more clarity. We shouldn't tell SEC that they are home and dry. They are not. The work has just started. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's look for, we have another person, Odua Blockchain. Are you with us?
Yeah,
Am I tuning?
Just 1 minute. What's your question?
My question is, a lot of people are missing regulations with tax implications. When there's peer-to-peer transactions in blockchain, when users send coin to each other, first of all, money is not a problem. It's what you do with the money. If people send coin to themselves, I don't think it has to do with regulations. It has just to do with tax implications. So people are missing tax implication with SEC. Number one rules of SEC is to protect the consumers. Okay, so from fraud. And when people raise money on the platform and by exchanging values for profit, it becomes a security. So what people are asking us is the token or cryptocurrency, is it a security or is it a utility? And if it's not a utility, if it's not a security, that has nothing to do with SEC. But and secondly, if you're an exchange and you serve as a gateway between a business and an individual, then you have to be regulated. Okay, the money is not a problem. Cryptocurrency is not a problem. It's what you do with the cryptocurrency. Are you trading it for something, or is it a business or whatever? But at the end of the day, if consumers have capital gains or buy Bitcoin for $1, it becomes $100,000, then they have to go through tax implications, pay their capital gain. So what we have to be watching at is, instead of focusing on SEC, we have to be looking at tax implications. How do we impose taxes on capital gain, on businesses? That's all, my question.
Thank you very much.
Very much. Can I just say something with what he just said and what Senator said? You see,
Okay,
for me, that was precisely what my thoughts towards and what I wanted to tell Mr. Agama that day. I said, sir, concerning a trader, for example, we must also all know that there are traders who are bigger than companies in this industry. There are traders who do $1 million a day, every day. There are traders who do $2 million in this industry every day. And their account shows that. They are both their fiat accounts in the bank and wherever they get the money from. But the funny thing is that some of those people, they don't even have a register. I know somebody who does not have a registered company that does about $2 million every day in transactions. Now, what I was expecting him to say is that based on gains that those companies would have, they have taxes to pay to the government. And it doesn't fall under the purview of SEC. That is with the FIRS. But what he was saying that day is that SEC will come and like, no, it doesn't work that way. It is FIRS and probably the banking report that will take that to the relevant agency. Then they'll be able to tax that person, that individual, whether an individual or a company, like what the last person just spoke about and what Senator was trying to say. So that an individual A is selling a token or a utility, whether it's a utility token or a security token two individuals see has nothing to do with SEC. That's my point. It has something to do with either the people who are in charge of taxing capital gain, like the last person spoke. So that's the point I was trying to make. So we must help them to understand this distinction, and they shouldn't venture into what is not theirs. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other contribution from what the questions people have asked?
Please, can I say something, please?
Okay, go ahead, sir.
It's important that we also be careful of the things that we say on air, because a lot of people are recording and a lot of people are also listening in from different places. There is no individual in Nigeria that has an individual bank account that can transact a $1 million value in any kind of business. That is money laundering if a person does it, okay? And it has its own implication. So if I have a business that is separate from me, I could use my business account to do large volume transactions, but I can't try it. Everybody's individual account has limited, because they do those things for security purposes, anti-money laundering, and all those things that help us to curtail what we do. So when we come on air and we say that I know somebody who does this, and we are trying to indict someone, okay, and that's not so cool, okay. So it's whether it's possible that the person did it or not. I think it should have been left outside this kind of discussion, because it poses some kind of security issues that may become difficult to mitigate after now. So I think I just needed to point that out so that further discussion should go in that direction.
Thank you. So there is this question here by Charles Oligun. I think we should applaud SEC and progress gradually. I think this first step will spur us of another positive activities in this space. I will appreciate a more elaborate discussion on the registration process. So any contribution on how the registration processes?
Okay, I think I said I totally agree with the guy, the person who asked that question. It's very important we applaud them, at least for taking a step in the right direction. It's been 3 years now since we were expecting this. And in terms of the registration process, the last information I know or I heard is that that will be made public later on. But the process or the steps for the registration right now, there is a link, I think, that was supposed to be added into that particular statement, but we did bring it to the attention the last time that that link is not working, or there form people were supposed to fill, and they told us that it will be fixed. But I don't know as of today if it has been fixed. So I think the best way to get the right answers to that is to check back that link again and see if that form that was attached to it is now working. That's my take in regards to that question. But sure, it's a positive one, and we should applaud SEC at least for taking a step, if for nothing, among all African countries.
Thank you very much. We'll get back to the questions and we'll take more questions. If you want to ask questions, you can raise your hand. But let's get back to some questions we have here. So another one that reads from the statement SEC release says, similarly, all digital assets, token offering, ICOs, STOs, and other blockchain-based offers of digital assets within Nigeria or by Nigerian issuers or sponsors or foreign issuers targeting Nigerian investors shall be subject to regulation of the Commission. So my question is, what criteria do you think the SEC can use to determine this because of the borderless nature of blockchain-based assets? Lucky, let me start with you.
Oh, interesting. I thought I was going to come later. Seriously, to be fair with you, though we from taking from the perspective of an industry player, The mechanism for them to really determine this is almost slim or close to nothing, because if at all they even try to determine, there are ways to which people can still jump over, or will I say migrate, especially using the case of DEX and other solutions right now. It's probably, I will not be surprised if in no distant time we begin to have OTCs that are fiat to crypto working in a DEX-like format in no distant time. Right now, they are probably just, if there's any mechanism in place to get them, it's going to be just the entry and exit point as of today, which sometimes some of these things are still outside the purviews of SEC. Although they did assure, or they did say, or they did give us the notion that don't worry, there are mechanisms which they are putting in place, and we should just exercise patience and until we hear them out. We, from the perspective of the industry players, we're looking at what kind of mechanism would be there for them to really checkmate individuals or participants who are coming in and going out. Maybe, I guess it's most likely going to be cooperations with the exchange operators themselves. Aside this, the mechanism is close to nothing.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chuta, what's your take?
Okay. I guess you're asking the model. Yeah, can you repeat the question? Even though can you just repeat it again? Okay,
the statement reads, similarly, all digital assets, token offering, ICOs, ACOs, and other blockchain-based offers of digital assets within Nigeria or by Nigerian issuers or sponsors of foreign issuer targeting Nigeria investors shall be subject to the regulation of the Commission. So I'm asking, what criteria do you think the SEC can use to determine this because of the borderless nature of blockchain assets?
Okay, this typically a major issue all over the world, but Americans have been able to find a way to also invest, even though projects that are offering ICOs that are initially trying to like sideline them, still specifying their document that they shouldn't. They use VPN. Okay, that's technology for you. So there will always be a way to bypass different laws and restrictions. But it's important that the baseline rules are set. And that baseline rule is that if you are issuing ICO, DATO, or IEO, and your company or your agency has a footprint in Nigeria, you will need to primarily sort yourself out with SEC on that ground. Now, it is now left for SEC itself as an organization to create a rule that will caution the inflow of foreign issuers of ICOs or whatever kind of a token that they are issuing, to also let them know that if you get people from our jurisdiction and they invest in your project, it means that you are responsible to us also. So they have to make that rule somehow. It's something they have to work out by themselves. But I think that the most important thing for us, for the ground rule, is to be set here so that Nigerians who are going to be issuing IEOs or ICOs from Nigeria will be regulatory compliant. Whereas those who are issuing elsewhere in the world and are coming to market here, they'll have to also clear themselves with SEC if they want to directly come in here to market those offerings. But that will not stop Nigerians here from investing in those areas. I don't see how SEC is going to practically stop that from happening. But then the warnings typically goes a long way to let people know of such things, that they are getting involved with without protection. So we don't need to flip our heads so much as per what they can do outside, but more on what they can do inside to make our own environment safer and more investment friendly.
Thank you. So just briefly, Mr. Dedechi, what's your take on that?
Yes, I believe it is a cautionary statement that SEC actually issued out to say if you have interest in issuing to Nigerian people, then we need to see your footprint in Nigeria. And because a lot of companies across the world target Nigeria, and they believe Nigeria is a big market, and the Nigerians are now orphans because nobody looks after them. So we should, I think I'm looking at the positives that, okay, finally we do have somebody that said, okay, I am responsible to look after Nigerians, and if you want to issue anything to them, this is what you have to do. So in implementing that, of course, we see one is that have your footprint here, and if you dare issue to any Nigerian without you getting across to other issuing to our citizens, then of course the law will catch up with you. So, and that's the same the United States government did. And so even if you go to Cyprus or whichever country and you issue to United States citizens, they'll come after you later because you didn't inform them and you issue to our citizens, then you have to refund them their money. So I think that's the way. And looking at how to implement that outside the borders of Nigeria, that's a long technical discussion that I think is beyond the purview of the whole country. So we're making a move, and let's look at the positives.
Thank you very much. Mr. Paul, what's your take on that, briefly?
Like Mr. Lizzie just said, it's actually a flat-out system. If you normally, once you issue, if you're issuing a security token, you have to put out a disclaimer that it is not meant for citizens of a particular jurisdiction. Now, of course, you can't stop them from buying, but once you put out that disclaimer and you make sure that disclaimer is out there, once you put out that disclaimer, nobody will hold you. That is for tokens that are coming into the country from other places. Then if you must run an IEO, ICO, any of the offers, you just go to SEC and tell them. If you're going to run one, go to SEC and tell them. But like I said, there are different systems now, which I wouldn't want to go into because it would be quite deep to do some of those things without even doing an ICO, to do a crowdfunding without doing an ICO. And just a point of correction. When I spoke about $1 million, I don't mean dollars. You know, in the crypto industry, we know everything is now dollar, but I mean in naira value. And if, for example, if nobody is doing up to $1 million in this, that means we are joking. We have people who do that, but I don't mean in dollars. I mean in naira as volume a day. It's there. It's already happening, and it keeps happening. The industry should grow in buying and selling. And these people report there's what we call SCUMO. They report themselves to the agencies who are in charge every day. They send reports, so they're not doing anything bad about that. So I think coming back to the question at hand, the issue concerning how SEC will be able to regulate this. I think that's the last question, right, Lee?
Yeah, I'm talking about what criteria do you think the SEC can use to determine the statement that I made because of the borderless nature of blockchain-based assets?
For me, I don't know what they have in the offing, but like what I've seen with other jurisdictions, it's just basically the format they can use to determine who, or the system they can use to determine. I don't know what they have in the offing, but for me, it's just basically on, especially concerning the IEOs, ICOs, and the kind of offerings that people are offering. That's basically the only thing that the only format they can use to determine who is going against the law or not, or who is with the law concerning that. I think that's just all I have to say.
Okay, thank you very much. With you, sir, by this statement Nigerian state released on crypto regulation, does that mean that Nigerian government is now crypto friendly?
Yeah, they have not been averse particularly. They've just been like the few times we had meetings with both people at the CBN. They just keep telling us that you people should do your thing. We are just watching you by the sideline. But they keep saying that you make sure that whatever you do, make sure you don't infringe, you don't go against any particular law, you don't infringe on any particular law of the land, especially with the time we had a meeting with people in the EFCC. They just telling us that they, like what they told us then, they said we have laws, particularly for every industry, where if once you do a transaction that is a particular sum, you just send in a report to the FID, I think the Fraud Investigation Unit, and the EFCC. Once you do that, you don't have any problem with any agency. In as much as what you're not doing, you're not stealing, you're not going against the law. So if they are friendly, yes, they have never at any point in time been unfriendly to the cryptocurrency and blockchain. For me, I believe they have been friends, but they're just being cautious. They're just being cautious. If you look at it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Mr. Chuta, just 1 minute. Does that mean that Nigerian government is crypto friendly by this statement?
Okay. The statement that SEC put out shows that it is now legal to talk about crypto. Okay, it's out of the shadows, so you can practically discuss them in corporate environment and across government circles. It does not in any way translate to legal tender or stuff like that. Okay, it means that it is now a subject matter that is in public domain that anybody can talk about. A few years ago, you can't talk and mention Bitcoin if you are on live TV, okay, or radio station. You can't do that, but we do that now. Okay, across different media platforms that we've been to, we talk about Bitcoin, we mention cryptocurrencies, and we are no more subject to harassment. Now, what does that imply? It means that corporates can begin to engage stakeholders who are in the industry to learn about how they can tap into the new economy that is around crypto asset companies. I had a call from one of the biggest asset management companies in Nigeria that I once did their knowledge sharing session for like 3 years ago. And they called back to ask how do they start? How can they begin to do stuff like this? And yesterday, no, day before yesterday, there was a seminar where the Nigerian Stock Exchange was hosting investment opportunities, and we were also there and we asked questions, and the DG of the Nigerian Stock Exchange was quite open to discussions around crypto assets. Okay, so it means that we can talk about these things confidently, and we can actually begin to see and expect the influx of institutional investors in the coming years.
Thank you very much, sir. We are running out of time. We will be ending in the next 10 minutes. So, Mr. Dedeji, what's your take on that?
My take is positive. You know, it's opening up, you know, the whole economy to people to try new asset class. The new asset class promised to be transformative, and it has been discarded like a plague before based on the posture, albeit neutral before now. But, you know, those statements now give it a kind of, you know, positive posture, and people can actually talk about it like Mr. Chuta did mention. Some asset managers, of course, some institutional investors can begin to embrace, to look into it, to see how they can tap opportunities. So for me, I would say overall, positive.
Thank you very much. Lucky, by the statement of the SEC, is it that Nigerian government is crypto friendly?
Okay, I'll use a scale in this case.
Okay, just briefly.
Where -1 is negative, 0 is neutral, and one is positive. I think with this statement, we moved from 0 to tending towards +1, but we're not far from 0 though.
Thank you very much. Still with you, would these regulations hinder innovation in the space, and is it a friendly regulation?
Okay, I should take that.
Yes, do you think that the regulation will hinder innovation in the blockchain space?
No, absolutely not. Again, SEC have made it very clear that their position is not to hinder or stifle growth. It's rather to encourage it. And even with that, I don't think that should hinder or stop anyone from building, developing, or bringing out any innovative product from the local perspective, especially from Nigerians. So the regulation doesn't. It doesn't stop at all.
Okay, thank you. Adedeji, would it hinder innovation, and is the regulation friendly?
It will not. It's clear statement. They say we did this not to stifle innovation, but to encourage it. And what I see in it is a beautiful thing that the chaffs will be weeded out of the ecosystem. I mean, if you are here with a negative mindset, so Nigeria is not going to be a place for you going forward. And also, we're developing capacities to make sure we can be able to separate the chaff from the wheat. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chuta, what's your take?
Okay, I have to let us know that at this time, there's no regulation yet. This thing is a policy statement. This document put out here is not the regulation document, so to speak. So we need to understand that in the light of our discussions. The rules will be made in another document. Okay, so this statement by SEC is basically their posture, their disposition. So we expect the rules themselves to be made that will guide the operation, and those rules are what will regulate. So rules are created to regulate. Okay, so it is not in this document. Okay, and they have clearly stated in the document they released that it is not in any way aimed at stifling the technological growth of any industry, or rather to protect individuals and investing that they are doing.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Paul, what's your take?
My take is what SEC has put out there is not to, and SEC's posture will not stifle this industry, and they are not out there. And the way the industry is metamorphosing on a daily basis, things are coming up in any particular jurisdiction, like the industry. Different things are coming up in the industry, bust open and grow more. So we are in for the best of time.
Thank you very much. Let me see if we have other questions, and we'll round it up. Okay, there's no other question. In case if you have questions, maybe you can drop them at the question and answer session. Okay. Thank you very much for joining us today on CoinNewsExtra virtual weekly blockchain and cryptocurrency panel discussion, episode 24. So here we talked about interpretation of the Nigeria SEC regulation of cryptocurrency in Nigeria. And we have industry players in Nigeria crypto and blockchain space who have joined us to talk about this topic. We have Chuta Chimeze, who is the founder of Blockchain Nigeria User Group and also CEO of Blockspace Africa. Thank you, Mr. Chuta, for joining us.
Thank you, CoinNewsExtra.
Also joining us for Mr. Paul Ezefulukwe. He is the president of SIBAM, Stakeholders in Blockchain Nigeria Association. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
It's a pleasure. So also we have Adedeji Owunibi, who is the senior partner of financial forensic and virtual asset regulatory advisory. Thank you, Adedeji, for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and great job you're doing. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. We also have Lucky Wakwe, who is the founder of Sabi Groups. Thank you, Lucky, for joining us.
Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure having you here today.
Thank you very much. And this panel was moderated by my humble self, Choma Lee, the CEO of CoinNewsExtra. Thank you very much. We are happy to our sponsors, and Limited Ecosystem and Bitcoin, and also to our participants who took out time to participate. Thank you very much. Thank you all for joining us, and bye-bye.
Cheers.
Thank you.